Hi and welcome. I'm Bob Berg with Jeff West and Kim Angeli for another episode of SalesWise. And everything about the SalesWise system is about being other focused. You could say centered, customer centered, client centered. Absolutely. But before we bring Jeff on, who is our main presenter today, one quick thought about this that one of the best things we can do in order to be really focused on the what's best for the customer is to lose our attachment to the results of the sales conversation. Uh, One of my great mentors, Bill Gove, fantastic guy, he used to say, when it comes to sales, you're responsible to people, not for people. And what Bill meant was we're responsible to them in order to give them the opportunity to do business with us. We're responsible to them to be prepared. We're responsible to them to understand their needs, wants, and desires, to know the insights that can help either fortify weaknesses or even leverage their strengths. We're responsible to them to do everything we possibly can to make their life better by way of our product or service. We're not responsible for their life's decisions. When we can lose that emotional attachment to the results, not only is it more fulfilling for us on the way we're conducting business because of our sense of happiness and peace of mind is not dependent upon their buying from us, but we actually become more attractive to them because when you could say care, but not that much. Really, they're then saying to themselves, I wonder what this person has got going that's so good that they don't seem to be really that upset that I don't want to buy for them, from them. And then in that case, they actually want to know more. So again, it's just an attitude, and it actually allows us to place our energy on what's best for the customer with, again, losing attachment to any of the results. I want to bring Jeff West on. Jeff is really one of my real life action heroes. He's a guy who built an absolutely magnificent sales career as a producer and then got promoted pretty quickly along the way to state sales coordinator of a very, very large insurance company. He led a team of a couple thousand people, great teacher, and really a great student. And one of the things he did is he came up with an idea after he had retired because he was so interested in knowing why certain things worked and why for some people certain things didn't. And he really brought an entire concept to us that I'm very, very excited about, and I think you will be as well. So, Jeff West, come on down.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. If you really do want to become sales wise in what you're doing, you have to really study the industry and you have to really dive in there. And one of the key points in doing that, quite frankly, is accepting something as being very important to your future success. The single most important factor that will determine your future success and the success of your team, if you're in leadership, is not the economy. It's not the political landscape. It's not even your competition. The single most important element that will determine your future success are how the prospects in your marketplace, how your clients, if you're in leadership, how your team members answer one simple question. When it comes to their relationship with you and your organization, will they persist or will they quit? So
Mm.
if you know how they're going to make that decision, it really puts you ahead of the game. And Bob said a couple of things a second ago about why I did this. The research I did into this concept came from the idea that I had been a sales leader for a very long time, and I knew a couple of things. I could get two people who, on resumes, on their skill set, they look like they should both be very successful. They had the leadership skills I would be looking for. They had everything going for them. And yet I could put one out in the field of sales. They would become very successful. They would commit. They would do some great things. And yet I would put the other one out and they would fail. And that just puzzled me. So I began to research how that decision gets made. And I'm not going to take you through the science that backs all this up right now, but if that's the kind of thing that interests you, look for the works of Dr. Antonio Damasio. He's the leader in how people make decisions as far as the neuroscience behind it. So, but basically, I'm going to give you a little description of it. There's a science, an actual neurological process that occurs in our brains with each and every decision that we humans make. And there are no exceptions to that. And when you understand that science and then choose to work with it instead of in opposition to it, you can actually influence how some key decisions get made. You can influence how a prospect you've never met will make the decision to meet with you the first time. You can influence how that same person will then become your client and hopefully eventually your walking ambassador. If you're in leadership and you're charged with building a team and leading that sales team in your organization, you can actually influence how they make the decision to come on board with you. And even more importantly, you can influence how they make the decision internally to persist and to stay after their career so they become successful and a loyal member of your team. So how that science basically works is this. There's a part of your brain that your emotional center is, and there's a part of your brain where the logic is centered. When we're making decisions, when we're making decisions, the way our emotions impact that is if we're experiencing a negative emotion like fear, mistrust, discomfort, what happens inside us is the brain sends an electrical impulse down to the body and it creates what we call a somatic marker. And that somatic marker makes us feel differently. It makes us uneasy. It makes us uncomfortable. We don't want to move forward. We get anxious. So when we want to avoid that feeling, so when the negative emotions are hitting your brain, are being created by your brain and connecting with the logic of your decision, our natural tendency is to push back, to say no. We're not going to move forward in that kind of feeling. We want to avoid that. But the good news is the opposite as well as much as the excuse me, got tongue tangled today. The good news is the opposite is true as well. When we experience a positive emotion, such as joy, love, a sense of belonging, a sense of security, the brain still sends that impulse into our body, but it produces a somatic marker that we like. We want to do that again. It feels good to us. So when our positive emotional center combines with the logic of what we're doing at time, we make the decision to move forward. That's when someone is comfortable saying yes and taking that next step in your process. And that's what I call a fusion point. And fusion point is that moment in time when logic and positive emotion merge and ignite. And when it happens, it creates energy, it creates consistency, it creates acceleration. If you're in leadership, fusion points are what create the most amazing loyalty in your team that you'll ever have. Now, to incorporate fusion points in your business model, you want to try to put them everywhere. You want them in your sales model from prospecting through starting that new client relationship. You want it in your customer service model as well. And you want it as you're building your team. If you're the leader in the organization, you also want to create the fusion points in your team. But today, just briefly, I'm going to talk about how you would incorporate fusion points, that combination of positive emotional connection with the logic of what you're doing at the time. How would you incorporate that in your prospecting process? Because literally, when you go out there and you're making your sales calls, you're going to find three general groups in a prospecting situation. You're going to have one group, they know they have a need, they recognize your brand. When you make that contact, even though they may not know you, they'll have a fusion point. They see you as a potential solution to their issue. But then you've got two other groups that they don't respond exactly the same way, unfortunately. You've got one group that considers an unexpected call a little bit of annoyance to them. And you have to kind of know that up front when you're thinking about that. For them, it creates a collision point, and they're not always very nice about what they're doing. Then you've got that third group that there's no context to them at all. They're not having any thought about you. They're focused on their day, their world, and you haven't given them any reason yet to think about you. So they don't. Now, we can create fusion points with all of those groups by changing a couple of things about how we approach them. That's what, there's the first group. You can make a lot of contacts in there. It's going to work very well. That's what I did for years. But the other two, creating some fusion points before you ask for the first meeting can be a tremendous help to your advantage. So there are three basic ways that you can create fusion points with that prospect prior to that first meeting. Number one is with an introduction. When you get a referral, an introduction from someone who already knows, likes, and trusts you, it creates a sense, that same sense in your prospect, and that fusion point helps you get that appointment. The very best in the industry that is Bob Berg, as you all know. His material on endless referrals is incredible. The second thing you can do is you can prime the prospecting pump in your sales process. And by that, what I mean is provide three positive emotional touches to that prospect prior to even requesting your first visit. One of the things I love about our friend Art's subject is that he talks about turning a cold call into a smart call because you do a few things first, do a little research, and you do some things that make it different when you do it. In priming the prospecting pump with those three touches, I generally recommend the first touch be something very personal that's about their company, about something you saw positive online with them. Print that off, put a note, tell them you were impressed, and then put two additional sentences there. Number one is, I'd like to meet you soon. And number two, please expect my call. The second touch, I generally go with something a little bit more on the lines of what might provide them business value in their industry, whether it's something where I researched it and found it on the way their company works with other companies, things of that nature. The third thing that I like to do is something that Kim uses in her business model, and it's with cards that go out, and you can literally go online, upload a picture that you got from that company's website or from their social media profile, upload that, type a note. They end up getting a card in their hands from you, and it's a personal touch that you could do. But if you'll do those three things prior to requesting that first meeting, and then when you use words that point them toward their benefit, what their value is from your proposition, when you combine those together, you'll find that you're getting much higher response rates in the second and third group that we talked about earlier, and you'll find your results much better. So that's enough for me this morning. I'm going to give it back over to Bob.
Wow, that was great. I absolutely love that. And one of the things I love is I love learning the reason why with things that I learned back in the day 40 years ago, right?
Right.
That you and I both, and then Kim's a lot younger than we are. So then later she would use to build her business. And we knew it worked. And we
Yeah.
knew that, right? But we didn't know why. And sometimes that's okay. I mean, I don't really have to know why the lights go on when I go like this and this. But I'll tell you what, when we do know why a customer, a prospect, is much more likely to say yes just to seeing us, okay, that allows us to leverage that knowledge. And I want people to really be in a position to know that, yeah, they're going to get no's, of course, because that's part of life. It's part of business, but they're going to get a lot more prospects who will agree to see them. Now you look at this, when you teach fusion points, when we do this during the SalesWise live event coming up, and you're going to teach how to give what we call a sales conversation. Some people say presentation. That's okay. What we never say, of course, is that baseball word, pitch, right? We never say that. But when you have a sales conversation, you're going to show them how to utilize fusion points in order to increase your closing percentage.
Absolutely.
And I know, and you won't say this because you're too humble, but I know that when you were with the company you were with, when you were in the sales field, your closing ratio was like through the roof. It was almost like unheard of percentages. And you were utilizing fusion points and you didn't even know that's what you were utilizing.
I wish someone had understood it and taught it to me back then, but, everything happens at the right time for the right reason. And everything you and I learned about the psychology of sales, the reason it works is because of the fusion point it creates.
That's exactly it.
Your brilliance that you've had for decades on how you taught becoming objection proof, the same thing. How the salesperson does what you've been coaching people to do for a very long time. What it does is it creates a fusion point instead of a collision point. If you just try to overcome an objection, you get the collision point. But if you handle it the way you've been doing it, you get the fusion point.
Oh, I love that. All right. Thank you, Jeff. And now another one of my real life action heroes. She is just what a lovely human being. I think she creates a fusion point for people just when she walks in the room. And her name is Kim Angeli. And and she was a $65 million producer with this little company called Cisco back in the day. She then opened up and ran a very, very successful insurance agency before retiring from that, and now helping people, helping salespeople, entrepreneurs, business people, when they have a client, when they have a customer, stay in that person, not just top of mind, but actually top of heart. And while we're going to feature her teaching in our next SalesWise uh, session that we're having here, whatever we call it, she is going to give us a nice little tip today. So, Kim, take it away.
Awesome. Well, I love to sit among wisdom on these calls. Bob and Jeff, they're amazing. When I look down, I'm not looking at my phone. I'm taking frivolous notes because I learn
Mhm.
something every time. So I want to give you one of the tools in my toolbox, and I've used this quite a bit. And of course, just like Jeff, when I was using these tools in my insurance agency and growing revenue and managing 6 employees that I'd replaced myself with, and I was grateful for them every day. I didn't know what I was doing. So I created what you call a gratitude call. And this is not a call where you are calling to sell your existing customer anything. This is not a buy one, get one. We've got a sale going on. This is nothing about your product. This call is all about them. And how this gratitude call goes, it's actually a really great way to re-engage your client base. If maybe you've been out being busy and you haven't engaged with them in a while, it's a way to engage with them and it being about them. And it's very simple. And if you don't know what to say, I have scripts on what to say if they answer the phone, if they don't answer the phone, if you want to do it via text, however you communicate with your client. 68% of your customers will leave you because they don't feel like you appreciate them. And they actually, after 45 days, forget about you. They really cannot even remember who you were or how you solved a problem for them, even if they're paying you as an insurance agent. Because what you've done as an insurance agent, whoever you place the business with, they're seeing that company name, Travelers or State Farm, on their bank statement. They don't see the agent's name, Kim Angeli, Jeff West, Bob Jones. They're remembering Jake from State Farm. So your actual attachment to the name of you helping them is lost. So the way to really engage with that, and I do this often, I call into my client base, current and past, and I just say, one Friday, I made a gratitude call to a client and I said, "Hey, Chris, it's Kim Angeli." Of course, he took my call. And because I'm always wanting to add value and make it about them. And he knows I'm not just calling just for, my best help. And I said, how's business? How are things going? And I didn't say another word for the next 20 minutes. And I learned a lot about Chris. And entrepreneurs, we have a different mindset, and he really wanted to vent to me on some things that were keeping him up at night. And so I just connected him with 2 people and gave him a solution for myself that can help him navigate what he delivered to me and spoke to me about on Friday. Right? So it's really, really focusing on those clients you've served and staying top of heart and engaging with them at your highest self, and it not being about you calling and making those, I can call them fusion points now beyond the transaction, is how are you engaging with them after you've brought them on as a customer? And so gratitude calls is a tool in my toolbox, and all it costs you is the phone in your pocket. It's not, it's really, really great marketing, but we don't call it marketing. You're being top of heart. So that's my tool for you today is make some gratitude calls on a Friday afternoon, block it on your calendar, put gratitude calls, call 5 clients, 5 relationships, and make it part of your weekly calendar and do it 52 weeks a year, unless you're on vacation.
Wow. Wow. I love that. I mean, I just, I mean, think about what you did. And Jeff, if you want to provide your thoughts on this, I mean, she's the insurance person, let's say, and she's calling and just asking about them. How's their business? Yeah. How's your business? Right.
Right.
And she didn't even have to say another word because he just wanted to talk. And how appreciative was he that his insurance agent was calling not to sell him not to upserve with another, some people say upsell. We say in the SalesWise system, we say upserve, but not even to upserve him with something else, not even to ask for referrals right now. There's a time and place for everything, but just to focus on him.
Well,
Right.
that is the best way ever to create the most loyal people in your business. It's just the way it is, and Kim just exudes that thought process.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And it's very important to me to make sure they know I care about them beyond the transaction. That because we need to humanize. We have systems, but I told someone today, you can systematize, but you need to humanize while you're systematizing. And I said, you can't get away from that if you really want to have a stellar, sought after business.
Yeah, great systems are never about the mechanism. Great systems are about making it easier for people to make a human to human connection.
Amen.
If a system can't do
Amen.
that, it's not a worthy system.
Right.
So we talk about, and Kim, you're really sharing how to have these people really be your what we call personal walking ambassadors. A great friend and hero of all three of us, Richard Wildman, who wrote 100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life. He calls it having people be your delighted advocates. And I love that saying even more than personal walking ambassadors, because no, they're not a satisfied customer. I mean, those are fine, but those are going to leave you, right? When something better comes along. We're talking about a delighted, someone who, when they think of you, they are in a state of delight. They have good feelings. The fusion point, we have that emotional part, right? A delighted advocate, meaning they are proactively advocating for you. And I think when any of us hear about a product, a service, or a salesperson from a delighted advocate, we receive that energy, and we're excited to hear about that person and do business with them. So I think between Jeff's fusion points and your staying top of heart with your system, Kim, it's like, wow, it just creates that environment for success for everyone involved. And for everyone listening, I'd like to suggest to you that you early June, June 2nd, you arrive, and that night we're having a really neat kind of get together with a live Dixieland band, and then all day the 3rd and the 4th at the beautiful Ben Hotel. It's an autograph hotel. It's amazing. We're going to have 2 days. They're going to be fun, but they're going to be intense, and they're going to be back and forth, and they're going to be discussion and breakouts, and we're going to equip you during those 2 days to really take your sales to that next level of success. And the people there are going to be successful salespeople, people who've done very well, and at the same time want to really break through to that next level. So check out saleswiselive.com, saleswiselive.com. We do have to let the hotel know within the next few days how many seats and how much lunch and everything. So we are going to be closing registration soon. So make sure you go to the site, SalesWise Live. Join up. If you're not, Jeff always says, if you're a sales manager, one of the greatest fusion points that you can create with your team is to go on a trip with them. What a great trip this would be. It's in the downtown area of West Palm Beach, right next to Clematis Street, which is the nightlife area. You're right on the Intracoastal with tons of yachts to dream build. You're right across from Palm Beach Island and Worth Ave. And so come and join us and have a great time. And again, take your business to that next level of success. We'll be back next time about a week from now, and we'll be featuring the wisdom of Kim Angeli. If you liked what you heard today from Kim, just wait till next time. So wishing you a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us.